Welcome to our 44th sequel of the Church of Uganda at 150 years celebrations. And we are celebrating through our history. It is some years to that date, but these specific sequels are meant to make us aware, create awareness of the sesquicentennial celebrations due in 2027. The author of the sequel, my name is Christopher Amos Chikomeko Ntambi. In this sequel, we are visiting Mboga, the ministry in Mboga among the Mboga, which was pioneered by a lay evangelist called Kivebulaaya. On arrival in 1896, he began ministry. He converted many people to Christianity, although they had not yet been baptized, because of course baptism can only be by a priest or a reverend deacon. And so, as the ministry grew and went into 1897, the ministry and Christianity was growing, but there was a problem. The gospel began to touch the hearts of the people and therefore challenge their very being. For example, men who were polygamous were now being forced or being taught to leave their many wives and remain with only one wife. That was a challenge as far as culture was concerned. They were being challenged to worship only one God. That was also a challenge. It was more comfortable to be a Christian, but also be free to worship the other gods, offer sacrifices to them. But now they were being told, no, you have to abandon all those others once you're a Christian and worship only one God. Now that was a contradiction to their culture. It was a way of life that was quite difficult to accept. And so by early 1898, the situation had reached boiling point, and King Tabaro regretted ever accepting Kivebulaaya into his territory of the Mboga. And therefore, it was time to go. King Tabaro, in early 1898, ordered for Kagwa to leave and return to where he came from. Now, unfortunately, Kivebulaaya refused. He was not going to leave. As a matter of fact, the king could do whatever he wanted to do to him, but he was not going to leave. So, King Tabaro began by burning down the hut in which Kivebulaaya lived. So Kivebulaaya lost his dwellings. King Tabaro then moved to the grass-thatched church. He burnt it down, or he ordered the burning down of the church. So the Mboga church was burned to the ground. There is a miracle that happened, because as they burnt the church, the properties which would also have got burnt never got burnt. As they burnt the church, Kivebulaaya was apparently inside that grass-thatched hut, and one would have expected that the smoke would have forced him out, but for some reasons he managed to stay. And he was not burnt. Instead, he was praying and praying and praying. So to some, these are some of the miraculous events that happened at this particular time that are very surprising. Now, he refused to run away. He refused to escape. He refused to leave. And therefore, King Tabaro was very, 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 very angry with him. This was defiance. And as far as the people surrounding him were concerned, to defy a king was against natural justice. Somebody who defied a whole king had only one penalty, and that penalty was death. So Tabaro asked Kivebulaaya, do you choose death or you will go home? And Kivebulaaya insisted that he would rather die than live. So when people hear us call Kivebulaaya an holy martyr, a saint, never be surprised. The man had gave up his life. The man had chosen death. Although God had other ideas, he was not to die. Although the order now came that kill him. So Kivebulaaya was flogged before King Tabaro, and he was flogged in the most cruel manner possible so that he could then leave, but he refused to leave. So he was beaten so badly. As a matter of fact, he became unconscious, and then he was left for the dead when they took his body and threw it away into the forests of the Mboga. These forests had wild animals, and so it was as if King Tabaro was saying that, fine, if your being beaten up cannot kill you, at least the animals in the forests will finish you up. So they left his body there. And then a miracle happens. One of the women, who I want to call a good Samaritan, who happened to be the very first woman Kivebulaaya had converted on arrival in 1896, went quietly, found him unconscious, realized that the man was still alive, as a woman, and of course doing it in secret, dragged Kivebulaaya to a secluded hut and began treating his wounds with local herbs. And this went on for a whole 6 weeks. After healing, the woman asked Kivebulaaya to run away for his dear life. But Kivebulaaya refused, and instead went to where his church used to belong and began sounding the drum to invite worshippers. King Tabaro heard the familiar drum and was told that indeed Apollo Kivebulaaya had resurrected from the dead. He could not believe it. He decided to go and have a look at himself. He was in fear. Tabaro was in fear. So this gospel which the man had preached of a son of God who died and rose again to save us is true. Kivebulaaya, who was thrown for the animals after being beaten unconscious, is alive. And that King Tabaro went to see for himself. At that time, a makeshift structure had been made where exactly the church was, and Kivebulaaya was inside. So King Tabaro entered into the makeshift structure. And when he saw Kivebulaaya, he fell on his knees and sought forgiveness. From that day on, friendship between King Tabaro and Kivebulaaya began afresh. At that time, Tabaro said that because of that forgiveness, he was therefore seeking a deeper understanding of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he accepted to be converted, and one day accepted that he would be even accepted to be baptized. He then gave orders for all that Apollo Kivebulaaya was teaching to be implemented. Let people send away their multi-wives. Let people abandon those other gods. Let people begin to worship only one God. And believe me not, Christianity spread like a wildfire among the Mboga in 1898. And when this news arrived in Mengo after several weeks, Bishop Tucker said, no. He had to visit Mboga. He had to visit Kivebulaaya. He had to visit and find out for himself what was happening. How come Kivebulaaya almost perished? And so the journey began. He embarked on his second journey to Toro, this time with a promise to reach Kivebulaaya in Mboga. As a matter of fact, Kivebulaaya had to travel to Toro in order to wait for the bishop and therefore lead the way to Mboga. The bishop was accompanied by Dr. Albert Cook, and they reached Mityana, where the bishop preached on the 10th of July, 1898. Then they crossed the rivers and the swamps, of course, River Mayanja, and they reached Toro, where they found Apollo Kivebulaaya waiting for them. The bishop, as usual, was warmly received by the Omukama Kasagama and the Queen Mother, as well as the white missionaries there, Buckley and Leod. The bishop then visited Lake Katwe, or is it called Kitwe? Lake Katwe. He also visited the slopes of Mountain Rwenzori, but he refused to climb the mountain because he had a journey to go to. He was going to Mboga. So Apollo Kivebulaaya led the way. The journey began on the 16th of August, 1898, and they crossed River Semliki into a dark mass of the great forest. They reached Mboga, and King Tabaro received them on the 24th of August, 1898. It took several days. Yeah, it took several days. The forest was not that simple. So, with the joy, the bishop conducted the first baptism because he was becoming the first priest to be there. All the others were lay evangelists like Apollo Kagwa. He was not yet a priest by that time. So the bishop conducted the first baptism of the Banyamboga people. And it was not only a baptism, but at the same time he confirmed them, because Apollo Kivebulaaya had concluded all those classes, graduated them from the baptism classes to the confirmation classes, and they were all ready. However, there were not that many. Those who were baptized were 12, including King Tabaro, who was baptized with the name Paul. He became Paulo Tabaro. However, only 6 were confirmed. And Bishop Tabaro was not one of them. He was baptized, but he was not confirmed. 6 others who were ready were confirmed, and Bishop Tucker used the opportunity to also visit King Opedi, a neighboring king, and he was therefore able to show himself out into the area. Now, something happened when the bishop left. Yeah, the bishop left with his delegation, and they returned to Toro from Mboga. Apollo Kivebulaaya also left with the bishop. Of course, after negotiations, the bishop wanted him back in Toro to be replaced by another group of lay evangelists who were already on the ground in Toro, but more were to join those others, because Apollo Kivebulaaya now was to come back to Toro and began the next phase of his being prepared for the diaconate, to become a deacon, to be ordered a deacon. But preparations were therefore to begin at that time. So he had to return to Toro for a more better situation of preparing him. So the bishop then, of course, arrived in Toro, and he confirmed 70 candidates on the 31st of August, 1898. And then, of course, the journey to Namirembe began, arriving there on the 16th of September 1898. Brethren, trouble then broke out. In the absence of Apollo Kivebulaaya, trouble broke out. Why did trouble break out? It seems the colonial belligerents in Congo were trying to fix the borderline between the British Protectorate of Uganda, and were not happy with the activities of the Church Missionary Society in Mboga, which, as far as they were concerned, was aligned too much in the interior of Congo than where they were more comfortable to accept as the borderline. However, history has not yet revealed whether they are the ones who instigated what you are going to hear. Because towards the end of the year, the neighboring Pigmy tribes attacked Mboga. And they did not only attack, but they carried out a massacre of up to 200 Banyamboga people were killed. And the dead included the teachers from Toro who Apollo Kivebulaaya had left at the makeshift church mission of Mboga. This massacre, historians have never understood. Were the belligerents the people to blame? Or it is true that the Pygmy people attacked the Banyamboga? Because we are going to see in future sequels how then Kivebulaaya makes a mission to the Pygmies and they were not hostile. That's what historians might one day begin to wonder whether the belligerents were not behind this massacre as a way of trying to scare the Church Missionary Society to pull back. But anyway, history will prove that maybe or maybe not. That massacre of the Banyamboga had to force Kivebulaaya to return to Mboga and try to cool the situation and try to cool the neighboring neighborhoods to live in harmony. How did they do that? We shall find out in future sequels. Unfortunately, the names of the teachers who were massacred during the attack was not recorded by the missionaries. Otherwise, they would be celebrated as people who sacrificed their lives for the spread of gospel in Congo. And because we don't have the names, Apollo Kivebulaaya remains the only name we celebrate. May the good Lord bless us all. Until tomorrow, when we look at what happened next. Amen.